my big suggestion to students, particularly through high school, is
you can do anything.
Choose it for you, not for it is worth
it. Just focus on the next step.
Doesn't matter what you're doing.
Don't be afraid.
As long as you're doing something.
That is such good advice.
I don't think I could see myself doing anything.
It's a challenging life.
Student nights, Wednesday to Saturday.
I worked on that house.
I racked up every single dollar of debt that I
I
possibly
think there's a lot of pressure on high school.
Yeah, I just
love
working outside.
And if money is something that you care a lot
In
about.
hindsight,
I've also been a very indecisive
But you
person.
keep looking for roads that have been less
It
travelled.
was just that moment that I knew what I wanted to do. So nothing else is going to change that.
Welcome to the guest speaker.
Cool. Right. Well, I know you're a busy man. I'm going to start with a bit of an intro. Now, some of it may be accurate, some of it may not be. So if I get a few test caps wrong, you'll let us know. But look, probably where we're sitting at the moment, you're 24 years old, weighing in at 88 kgs. Now, I've seen the size of your thighs, so I'm not sure 88 is reasonable, but we'll check in on
Yeah, heavier now, but
there you go.
Yeah.
You played NPC for Counties Manukau. You got your full-time contract in 2022. And in 2023, you were the joint top try scorer with 9 out of 14 games. And also in 2022, you were the Steelers Player of the Year, Players Player of the Year, and the Defensive Player of the Year. You made your debut for the Hurricanes in 2021 against the Crusaders. In 2022, you were named in the All Blacks for the Northern Tour squad. I know that because that was exceptionally exciting. Sorry, what did you say?
2023, not 2022.
Was it 2023 for the Northern Tour?
Oh, sorry, for the ABS 15 or All Blacks? Sorry, ABS 15.
Yeah, and I think that's when you played for against Island A.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, like I say, I know this because your father was booking tickets or you were buying them for him. So
right.
I know what big. Yeah. You became All Black number 1210 when you made your debut against the Wallabies on the 29th of July in 2023 in Melbourne.
Yeah.
That right? You've now got on the internet, it could be wrong, 12 caps, 40 points, 8 tries. You were in the 2023 World Cup squad and you debuted in that against Namibia.
Correct.
I've got a but. And this is really the but on how you got there. In behind this rugby that a lot of people see, and again, I have some privileges having known your father, but you were an avid stock car, race car driver. I remember watching you at Huntley. So there's this underlying madness about you, I suppose, because it's a pretty scary sort of sport, but you dabbled in that. You're very family orientated and there's a lot of support and a lot of values that come with that. And I think that's something we want to touch on today with kids. You never seemingly seem to be doing dumb things in the media, which is another thing I've noted that I'll touch on later. From the outsiders like me and Grace and all the listeners, you seem calm, calculated. Other people, unless I've noticed you on social media, you're an incredibly intense trainer. So your training is something you really value. And also your values are like you're here on something like this, the podcast. And I know you do other things as well. So there seems to be this understanding of privilege that you're in. And again, it's something I want to touch on for young kids to realize, the world isn't your oyster. It's something that you're earning. You're well managed and you're financially savvy. And I suppose to finish with this part, you're the perfect person, I believe, to give advice on becoming professional, but also being professional. And I think there's a difference.
Yeah.
So look, in terms of us for our messages, I think you're going to have a lot of messages for boys and girls aspiring to be athletes, not just rugby players, although obviously your insight into rugby will be top notch. But I think there's a lot of kids we have, netballers, hockey players, athletes of every description that will learn a lot from you and maybe starting at school, what they can start to do now. How you sort opportunities, the way you train, surrounding yourself with great people, including your family, managers and people like that, and also dealing with adversity, because if anyone goes on today and Googles your name, they'll see something about your stress fracture. And so obviously this underlying thing you have to deal with, that your job means if you get sick, if you get injured, you're not doing your job in a sense.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you're not sitting at home doing nothing. I want to know how your education, how you managed your education and sport, and ensuring that you had a plan B if the sport didn't work, because I know it didn't actually come easily from listening to your dad. So look, welcome and thank you for being here. Can I take you back to school? And I'm presuming this is where it all started as a young fella, and we will have kids anything from 12 to 18 sitting in school going, how do I become Cam Roigard? What advice would he give me? You know, how seriously did you take your academics? How did sport interact with your schooling? Can you reflect on that for us?
Yeah. Well, for starters, I probably wasn't like I don't know if it was like the in thing to say that you don't like school and whatnot. Like, I enjoyed spending time with my mates and, grew up, I went to St. Peter's in Cambridge, which was a great school, quite a big school. I think there were like 1,200 kids there. So I loved, I loved my time there. It was awesome to, I guess, they're quite big on sort of seeking opportunity and challenging yourselves in other ways. So there are lots of opportunities that were presented in front of you at school, and if you're, I guess, able to take those or find out sort of what path you wanted to go down, there are definitely opportunities to take whichever you wanted to do. So I obviously had a passion for rugby and sport. I was, I guess, more of a sport orientated compared to academic, but I still like to think that I took my academic stuff reasonably seriously, just for simply the fact that I know how much, my family sacrificed, because it's a private school, so obviously it costs quite a bit of money to go there. So I felt like I had a obligation to, I guess, make the most of it and not sort of just float through school, sort of taking it for granted. So I appreciated the opportunity that my parents gave me, and I was making sure that, I had to, I guess, had an obligation to do them proud by focusing and, doing what I needed to do academically in school. Although there probably wasn't, I guess, I didn't feel any pressure from them to, I guess, knuckle down with the academic side of things. But I just felt, I guess, reflecting back, or how I guess my mindset was then, was to, I guess, not just float through school just because I can and take it for granted. Yeah.
So I've got a couple of questions within school, Cam. How did your academics go? Like, what are we talking? You've got all your NCA through to level 3, or is that?
Yeah. And I think for a few subjects, I think I was merit endorsed. So I wasn't, top spec, but I felt like I applied myself enough to sort of, I don't know if it was like a plan B or what I was sort of thinking at the time, but whether I did end up going to uni or it was going to be an opportunity like that, making sure that I had my, enough credits and stuff to give myself that, was it the UE, or I can't remember exactly what it was called, but because you had to get a certain amount of credits or whatever to be able to do that. So I just sort of wanted to do that. Just obviously, I guess the nature of a private school, there were a lot of kids that were going to university after school, and I felt like I was probably one of the outcasts that were doing that. But I guess to have that as not a backup, but there's so many, I guess, twists and turns with life, and you never know what you might be doing. So to have that as something sort of stored away was something that I sort of wanted to achieve before leaving school. Yeah.
So I think there'll be kids sitting here now going, do I need to go to St. Peter's? Do I need to go to Auckland Grammar? Do I, and I think this is a really important question. There's debate around, the what is it, the year 14 kids, they either go to rowing or they're staying for rugby. Is the schooling side, I mean, we've got a few that went to our school who maybe rejected scholarships. How important was it for you to be at St. Peter's, and could you have made it somewhere else? I know that's a pretty big question to start with. But
not necessarily. I think the difference, well, again, that was my only school. I was there since intermediate as well, so I don't have other schools to compare off. But what I acknowledged or appreciated when I was at school was the support that the teachers had. So whether it was for myself or whether it was for students that were struggling to get those credits, They were, I guess, taking time out of their normal school schedule to help kids so they can pass tests to get credits that were necessary. So that was something that I noticed, reflecting back on other kids. And so I guess to answer your question, I don't think necessarily you need to go to St. Peter's to, achieve what you need to achieve academically. But I guess is that.
What about the rugby then, Cam? What about then being in a team like that? Did it possibly give you, if you've been playing for, I don't know, Pataru, for someone else, how important is it?
Well, I think I was pretty fortunate when I sort of got a bit older into the high school and played first 15 that there was a big push for, I guess, the first 15 to perform and do quite well. So I was pretty lucky to have quite a successful team when I was in there. So I guess there's so many stories about players that obviously there's a lot of players in Hamilton that go to handboys because it's the best team in New Zealand, and although that's good and well, I think that can also be a hindrance to a lot of kids as they're not making the rep team, so then they give up. Whereas if they're at any other team or any other school, they'd be in the first 15, no matter what. But that's just, I guess, well, I don't know, don't even know what you call it, but because there's so much debt that they have there, it's a hindrance to certain players, although other players will get that exposure, be able to get, professional contracts a couple of years out of school. So, I was lucky that, I guess, our school was put a big, I guess, push for that, for our first 15 to be quite good. And I think now there's 4 players that are in the All Blacks now that all play together. So me, Ollie, Norris, Samapeni, Finau, and Simon Parker, who just got named a couple of days ago. So I guess, that's pretty cool now seeing the other boys sort of getting their opportunities, and we knew how great they were at school, and for them to stick at it as well is it's been pretty cool. So there's also stories of Luke Jacobson, who lives just down the road. He went to Cambridge High, and he's obviously an All Black, and his brothers are play professionally as well. So I think if you're dedicated enough and you believe in yourself enough, I'm sure regardless of what school you went to or what scenario you're in, I'm sure you can achieve it.
I'm curious, Cam. Sorry, Ludlam. Jump in here. At what point? Because rowing was like my sport, and there gets a point when you realize, oh, like I'm good. I wasn't All Black level good, but like you start to realize, oh, this could be the career move. And I know you said school was as important. I think that's good for identity, like making sure all your eggs weren't in the rugby basket. But at what point in high school did you start to realize, and maybe even conversations with your parents of like, I'm pretty good. Like, I want to put more effort into here.
Yeah, I don't think I was one of those kids where I was, I'm really good, I'm going to pursue it as such, because I had such a passion for it. Like, I loved it. From when I was a kid, like, just absolutely, like, my idols were All Blacks, like the Dan Carters, Richard McCaw. So that passion was there, and I made a couple of rep teams when I was, I think, 11 and 12. They were roller mills, so played for Waikato. And then after that, I was quite a small player, or small kid growing up, so I was the smallest in the team. I guess, and didn't make any rep teams, so I didn't make under 14s, under 15s, under 16s, because I was supposedly too small, whatever, which a little bit, I guess, frustrating, like when you're a kid and you want to make these rep teams. And I remember thinking, like, because they take, I think, 4 halfbacks, I was thinking, geez, like, I'm not even in the top 4 for my region, like, how am I supposed to, pursue this, because I always felt like it was something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then as I got into first 15, I started to grow a little bit. And I remember in my last year of school, I thought I was playing pretty well. Like, I was one of the better players in the team, somewhat of a leader, whatnot. And then I didn't make the Chiefs under 18s. I was on the reserves, so didn't make the squad. But if there was an injury, I'd be called up or whatever. So that sort of pissed me off, to be honest. Yeah, because I was tried really hard. Like that was when sort of the first time I'd taken like the rugby stuff seriously. Like I was going to the gym 3 times a week in the morning. It was probably the closest thing you could sort of get to professional rugby without obviously being professional. And that was all, obviously there was some team driven stuff, but I was pretty motivated myself to, I guess, get the most out of myself and play pretty well because, well, who knows what was sort of around the corner kind of thing. And I guess that had a big impact on whether I wanted to pursue it or not. I never, to be honest, I never thought that I didn't want to pursue it and I didn't want to give up, but it was whether the opportunity to pursue it was going to still be in Waikato or whether I need to sort of get outside the region to chase the opportunity elsewhere. Yeah.
Can I stop you there, Cam? Because I think this point in your life, so it's under 18s, there'll be kids not having made the under 14, 15, whatever, all of those numbers you had, they're out. They accept their uni or they go to Polytech, their life changes because they're going, clearly I'm not good enough. And I suppose your first message is, I mean, I think Richie McCaw's got a similar story. And also you would have had no point in that stage of your life. Not only were you trying to make it, you had no idea you were going to be Cam Roigard of today, that what people talk about you as. You're not just a rugby player. So there must be some real faith inside you because it would have been easy to give up, surely.
Yeah. I think there was always I guess the thing with rugby in New Zealand and especially schoolboy rugby is that a lot of rep teams and whatnot are decided by one or two people's opinion, which obviously you can't have 20 people deciding a squad for an under 16 Waikato team because, well, there's obviously funding and like it's just not practical to do that. So I understand that aspect of it, but I think because I understood that, I was pretty determined to not let that affect the way I thought, and I don't think I was cocky about how I thought I was because I was a pretty humble kid, I felt, but yeah, I don't know why exactly, but I just never thought that I was going to give up because of what a couple people's opinion was of me. And yeah, I think that was, once I left school, that was the big decision for why I did move out of home, and which I'm sure we'll get onto soon. But
so what did you do then? So you're 18, you haven't made a few teams.
Yeah.
You're still determined, but you're not there. How did your life change then, and what did you do?
Yeah, so didn't make any of the rep teams. We actually won the Central North Island, the top 4 competition, which is co-ed competition at the end of the season, and played pretty well. Obviously didn't make any rep teams. There's like New Zealand Barbarians, which is like the similar to the All Blacks 15, so it's like the B team of the New Zealand secondary schools. Obviously, whether it was political or not, didn't make it because, well, didn't make the Chiefs 18s, so I guess they're not going to pick someone that didn't make that either, so didn't make that, which was all good. But there was opportunity post school for a academy contract with Waikato, and there was another opportunity through Counties Manukau, so they were the only two that sort of presented opportunities to join their academy, which, for those that don't know, it's like a training academy to hopefully build up, get you fit and strong, and you play hopefully good rugby through the club. And then if you get an opportunity for like under 19s, you'll play that and hopefully keep developing until you play NPC. So that's sort of the thought process behind the academies. So I had a decision whether I was going to stay in Waikato, where they had a opinion about me. They thought I was, the standard's still too small. There was some feedback. I was having some good conversations with a few of the coaches who were teachers at school, who obviously knew my dad pretty well, because Dad sort of helped out with we own a bus company, so he's sort of like the assistant manager as such, helping out as he's driving us away for the away games and stuff, and has a good pretty good connection with the coaches and stuff. And this particular coach Sean Honnock's his name, so he's had his own rugby career. I think he grew up in Waiuku, which is the counties region, obviously in Waikato now, but he's had a great rugby career. So he was, I guess, someone that I was talking to a lot around the decision to make, and there's some feedback that they thought that I'd peaked in school, which for me, who's 17 years old, hasn't even left school, like, it's just so bizarre for me to hear. So that was sort of, the decision was really, do I stay there where they've already got this opinion of me? And I feel like it's going to be hard to, I guess, change that opinion or go somewhere new, almost like a fresh start, and sort of earn the respect of those around me and sort of try and make something of it and give it a genuine crack, I guess. So that was sort of, in hindsight, it was a no-brainer, but at the time it was obviously quite a big decision because, I've been at home all my life, obviously, and sort of straight into the real world, it was, a big decision.
So you've based some of this on, you're not that year 13 player who's 120 kgs already and basically muscles their way maturely through rugby, and that's how they're identified. It was a growing game for you, and clearly, I mean, no one knew what you were going to grow into, not even you. Was the growth one of the key things? Did you suddenly explode, or
yeah, I think, obviously got a bit of height, and I was never the fastest. Like, I was athletic, and like I tried to like sports days and stuff. I'd just make the finals for the sprints, but I'd be middle of the pack. Like, I'm never, like, I wouldn't say an elite athlete by all means, but I guess I did grow quite late and sort of develop. But I think it was once I sort of joined the academy, stuff was probably when I started putting on a bit of size, bit of muscle, where I could actually play club rugby pretty comfortably. I was always a confident player, so I think that helps, regardless of whether I was, big. And then once I filled out, I guess that sort of played into my hands a bit better, and with the strength comes a bit of speed as well, so I got a bit faster. And then I was pretty lucky that, I guess, the guidance from the trainers and stuff was pretty good, and I was pretty, it goes hand in hand, I guess. Like, they'll help you out if you put in the work, and I was lucky I understood that right from the start, and because I was committed to it, I was able to, I guess, get pretty strong reasonably quickly. So once my opportunity did come, I wasn't still, 75 kilos dripping wet. I was able to sort of, I was big enough where I was able to keep up with the big boys and sort of play the way I wanted to play. Yeah.
So when you went to Manukau, it sounds like you're kind of the dream outcome of this development, and I might be getting the terminology wrong, but getting into that program, what would you call, like, how many people are getting in that? Clearly I'm a little bit uneducated on what that is. Thank you. But were you, and are you, probably a dream outcome to go in and out? Like you said, you filled out, you got faster, you did that. Was that normal?
Nah, I don't think it was normal. I think, like, when I was my first year, I think there was probably around 15 of us. So a lot of the players that go in was sort of, I guess, they'd have the intention of being in the under-19 squad the following year. So, which is like the regional competition, which they have, or which they used to have. Sorry, but I guess a lot of the players sort of filter out. Life sort of gets in the way. They realise when it gets very tough, do I actually want to pursue this? Or I guess in some of the cases, some people just aren't good enough, which is the reality, I guess, as well. So, but then, like I say, people start working, or people have families, or people just don't have the love for the game anymore, and so they filter out. And I guess I would like to think that I was probably one of those dream scenarios for them, or the examples of that you can sort of achieve it. I think it depends a lot on the region. I think Waikato, there would be a few, there is quite a few that make it through the academy program, but I guess the history of counties is that there probably hasn't been too many that had sort of gone through. And for me, that was sort of, I understood that again, like, it was pretty obvious right from the start that if I did stick this out, that there is an opportunity there, and I guess because of the nature of it, it might be a bit easier than at Waikato, because there are less players sort of coming through. So, if I'm dedicated, they're going to help me a bit more because there's less people in the academy. So then they can, I guess, put more time into me or make sure that I'm doing what I need to achieve my goals. Yeah.
So where does your mindset get from, Cam, from sitting at counties? Were you at some point, I mean, because eventually, obviously, the Hurricanes turn up.
Yeah.
Were you in the back of your mind, did you have a plan B to maybe you were starting to get good, go overseas? Because I think there's a lot of players and there's a lot of athletes who can, maybe just go, oh, well, I'll go somewhere else. Where were you at in your head for your career?
Yeah, so when I left school, obviously, I needed to work because, well, the academy thing, it's you don't get paid or anything like that. So I started an apprenticeship building. That was sort of my, I guess you'd call it a plan B, but obviously plan A and a half at the same time. And that was pretty tough, especially the first couple months because so the academy is, I guess, outside of work hours. So that day would be, I'd be getting up at 4:30 to go to the gym before work at 6, working at 6 till 5, and then be doing skills where we train before going to club rugby, to then go home to have dinner at 9:30 to go to bed and repeat it. So like that was from, I guess when you have a schedule of school where you get, your lunch break and, it's just, obviously it's so different, because obviously both groups want the best out of you. When you're working for a boss that's always so busy, when you're a boss, you're obviously working above and beyond and you got to provide for either your family or you're working with people with families who, trying to get by and they want the best out of you. You're the young fella, so you're doing all the hard work, you're doing the concrete drilling, you're doing all the the niggly jobs that doesn't take much skill but takes a lot of effort. And then you're trying to, I guess, turn up for an academy session where you're running fitness tests and you're trying to get the best out of yourself there and get better. It's tough and challenging, but I think it was after a couple of months when, I guess, because it was tough mentally. Like there'd be times where I'd be going home and sort of pretty upset, pretty overwhelmed, thinking, is this what I want to do? And I think that was probably when I was pretty fortunate to have the support of mum and dad, where they were like, well, if you want to give this rugby thing a crack, maybe we find another job that can sort of be a bit more of an enabler, that sort of gives you a bit more time so you're not so drained when you're training, so you can get the best out of yourself. And that was sort of when I was like, okay, I'm going to stop the building. End up picking up a job at the steel mill, which was still hard work, but they understood. They're big rugby fans. I think they might have been a sponsor for counties, so that was where that connection was. And they, I guess, no credit for them. They were pretty lenient with the work that I was doing. So if I was doing 4 days a week instead of the 5, instead of doing the 50-hour weeks, I was able to do 40 or 35, which was great for me in terms of keeping me refreshed and sort of being able to commit to that rugby stuff a bit more. Yeah.
This adversity I'm hearing from not making teams, the struggle with the work, you wouldn't have it any other way now if you went back, because it seems like it was something that taught you a lot. Maybe without it, you wouldn't be who you are. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. I think if I didn't leave Waikato, if I stayed at mum and dad's, I don't think I would have learned a lot around, I guess, resilience, discipline, and seeing how much I actually wanted it, especially when it got tough. Like, it wasn't a thing like if I was having a bad day or didn't feel like doing, I could just go back to, mum and dad's and it all would be sweet. So I think I did learn a lot from those experiences, and I think that is the silver lining, or almost a silver lining, but with the academies, because they're hard, like they're meant to be tough, like they're meant to be, I guess, battle hard you for when you do actually make it, that you, I guess, have a sense of, you've earned it, you haven't just walked in there like a lot of people that don't know what it's about probably think. And I feel like I've probably done it, not the hard way, but I was lucky with injuries and timing and opportunity and stuff, and I did come through. But yeah, you definitely, like I say, you learn a lot around resilience and how much do you actually believe in yourself and actually want it when, like you say, when you're doing ridiculous hours and committing to something that's not easy for sure.
It's also, Cam, and I love that you said that there about like if you actually want it, because as Ludlam mentioned, now we know where you ended up. But at the time, I'm sure you had fellow year level people who maybe were at Otago or Auckland doing O Week or doing the apprenticeships and then getting to party and do like, not that that's what you wanted, but there would have been a lot of temptation at that point to be like, these guys seem like maybe they're having some fun. I want to do that. So the fact that even though it was tough and you were tired and all these things, that question comes back to, do I want it? Because it sounds like mum and dad were awesome, are awesome, really supportive. Did you ever, and you said you didn't feel pressure in school, but was there pressure to continue down this path with them, or was it really internally driven of the rugby route?
Yeah, it was just internally driven. They were there as support. You know, they'd be coming to every game, every club game, every weekend, which was pretty cool. And I guess initially I was flatting with a random family that we didn't know at the time because I didn't have any family or anything in counties, so that made it, I guess, initially even tougher. But we're pretty close family friends with that family, so that's pretty cool. The support that they gave me for someone that they didn't know. Their family, they have 4 girls who were from 5 to I think 12 or 13 at the time, and they took in this random fella from Cambridge who they didn't, know for a bar of soap. So like the support that they gave me as well was pretty cool, and they had a lot to do with the club that I played for. But they were just, there was no pressure from them to keep pursuing it, but I guess they were there to, like I say, support. And when I was having a bad day or whatever, I'm pretty tight with Dad, and I always have a chat with him, when I'm driving home in the car. I still do now, which is pretty cool. But it was cool to, I guess, know that they had my support no matter what. And I think in the back of our mind there always was a plan B, but they're pretty big on, or Dad was pretty big, especially on giving it a proper crack. And if you give it a proper crack and then you still don't make it, well, at least you can say, you can step away with pride knowing that you did actually give it a genuine crack. So that was sort of our sort of understanding of the situation. Yeah.
I'm really interested, Cam, at what point, because we're about to, I presume, jump to your first professional contract with the Hurricanes. You're at school, you're not thinking All Black, I don't think. You're now NPC. Are you, or is it always just you're an NPC thinking, oh, I might get to play for Auckland or the Blues or Waikato, the Chiefs? Were you ever going, when was it All Blacks? Or was it always?
Nah, to be honest, it was Super Rugby was the goal or the dream, because I never thought I'd be good enough to be an All Black. I remember writing down in school, we had to write down what we wanted to be or whatever. And I remember writing down I wanted to play Super Rugby because I never thought I'd be good enough to be an All Black. But I guess when you get your opportunity at NPC, then your focus turns to starting or trying to make the 23, and then you're trying to be there consistently, and then got an opportunity through injury at the Hurricanes. So then my goal shifted to trying to stay there or trying to get a game, which I was lucky enough to get.
I need to stop you because I think kids are going to need to know, do you have a manager at this point? Who's writing you a contract? Who's ringing you? Because I think you're almost professional, which is your career, which is what we're all about. Yeah. How did that work?
Yeah, so we have player agents, which they do all the tough conversations around contracts, and they have all the connections to provincial unions and Super Rugby teams around, if there's players injured or they need a player, this is the pool that you can get it from, kind of thing. So they have all the intel and that sort of stuff. And I got my player agent when I was leaving school. So for that Counties Manukau Academy thing. So there was a contract there, but there was obviously no money involved, and like they're doing for young players. A lot of it's, well, I think it was for free initially, and it's not until you get your first contract where they take the, obviously small fee, but that doesn't change throughout. No matter how much you get, contracts are worth and whatnot, which is credit to them, I guess.
So a young superstar leaving school who's really good at rugby, can player agent, they just need to reach out or,
pretty much, yeah. So I was lucky that, but again, Sean Honnock, he had the connection for a player agent, and sort of that's how he ended up, I guess, how we ended up getting the player agent that I've got now. So, but then, like, for majority of players, when you join academies or whatever, they usually help you out with that, or someone will get in touch, because once you do, I think Hardy might be the only player I know that doesn't have a player agent, but he obviously, he's Hardy, he can probably sort of do what he wants in that respect. So
it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Get back to you, Cam, just a call out. Then there's other people listening who might be like, okay, I'm not the player, but they're hearing player agent, which is like, oh, okay, cool. So you can be involved in that part of it. Like, where I like to focus too on, there's other elements of being in rugby or whatever professional sport is that's not just the player. So already we're hearing like player agent, coaches, you've got different trainers, I presume. As at this point now, you've got nutritionists, all this. Like, has there been any other, I guess, career adjacent to rugby that's ever piqued your interest as you've been going through it?
I enjoy the physio aspects of the game, because they do so much for getting players back out in the field. They understand so much about your body, and if you're doing a simple calf raises, they can tell if you're, I don't know, you got something wrong, or like for my foot, for example, like they were able to diagnose it in 30 seconds, although it was a bad one, but they were able to sort of tell just by the touch, or sticking your thumb and in your toes or whatever. So I was like, that stuff intrigues me, but there's definitely so many different opportunities in the game, I guess, for people that aren't necessarily going to be a player or chase that sort of pathway as such. But like, I have a close mate that's played first 15 with him, and now he's an academy trainer for the Harlequins in England. So he just obviously had a passion for the game. Probably wasn't good enough to, I guess, chase the actual player as such, being a player. But yeah, he sort of did his studies and had a gig with Waikato, and then got an opportunity over there. And he, I think he was born in England as well, so he's sort of living the dream now. His dream, and he's pretty, so it's pretty cool for him to sort of, I guess, achieve his goal that he sort of wanted to achieve, similar to mine, just in a slightly different aspect.
Yeah, that's really cool to point out, because it is like, as I mentioned, rowing, you go, oh, I want to be in this game, but I don't know if it's as the athlete, but you can stay in that environment, and you're not as what's the word, impacted by injury, hopefully, because you're not on the pitch. But that's a great story about your friend, because he's in the game, he's helping other people, and it's just cool to point that out to someone listening, going, oh, I can be involved in different ways.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
So how much so you've got to the Hurricanes now, you're earning money. How important now, I mentioned early on, you seem quite a consummate professional in terms of the way you operate. That may have come natural, I don't know, but you're now earning money. You're signing probably quite important contracts around behaviour, what you do in public, probably how much of this stuff you have to do. How much did life change becoming that professional you dreamed of being?
Yeah, I think because that obviously took a lot of work to get there. I think it was probably something that I was quite excited for, to be a professional. And I think because I did take so much, I took a little bit of time took it like obviously quite a few years to obviously get to NPC, and then once I got that Super Rugby contract, that meant that I was able to play rugby all year round. So being able to, that was sort of everything that I wanted in terms of, geez, now I get to play rugby all year round. Imagine how much better I'm going to get. So being able to, I guess, not get comfy in a sense of I'm full time now, so I've done the hard work, so now I can just sort of relax and sort of get by. It was sort of around like now the real work starts, because I don't want to be just the same as everyone else. I want to try and make the most and see how good I actually can be. So that was sort of my mindset with that. And I guess when you come into a new group, obviously I didn't know anyone at the Hurricanes. I guess you got to earn the respect of them a little bit. So trying to be the ultimate professional, trying to be something that sort of earns their respect, whether it's through hard work or the way I train, the work-ons that I'm doing after training, or putting myself out there to have conversations with them, because I was off the field. I like to think be pretty quiet, sort of keep to myself a little bit, and I was fine with that. Like that's all good, but obviously being in a team environment, they sort of want to get to know you a little bit. So get yourself out of your comfort zone to talk to players that you sort of watched on TV was something a little bit different. But I think just because it was something that I wanted to do, and then I did achieve it. I didn't want to be something that I wanted to blow by doing something stupid, I think it's probably easier than you think to.
Okay, so how did you not blow it? Because this is probably, I touched on this earlier too. You don't seem to be on the front of Women's Weekly or the Herald for doing some idiot drinking thing, or did you have a manager giving you advice to behave yourself? Were you just lucky? But there must be a lot more that goes on that we don't. Or are you educated now in the Hurricanes? How does it work?
Yeah, so the academy stuff's quite good in that sense, around educating you around what professional rugby is like. So they give you lessons around life initially. So because obviously we're fresh out of school, so I remember doing cooking lessons. They do like media stuff, so how like the do's and don'ts of talking in front of a camera, and because obviously for some people it comes quite naturally and others it doesn't, but the reality is you're gonna have to do it at some point if you do make it professionally. So the academy stuff was awesome for educating ourselves in that, and then I guess if you're looking up to the right people, you're learning off. I remember people when I first came into the Hurricanes, like Dane Coles, Geordie Barrett, Artie at the time. They're massive role models for the group, and it's pretty easy to, I guess, learn off people like them. And obviously, there's time and a place for certain things. If you're gonna like team functions and stuff, you're gonna have a beer or two. You're doing it in the safety of the group, and you're not getting too reckless, which I never had an issue with, but. You sort of look. I guess you work out pretty fast being in the group, what is acceptable and what's not, and learning off others is probably a big thing for me.
Is it expected or is it signed, Cam? Is it something that you actually sign? I'm not going to be a dick, sort of thing, or is it just everyone just crosses their fingers and hopes?
Kinda, I guess so. Yeah, I guess when they pick or sign players, I guess I'd like to think that they know what they're like as a person, and if that it's the same with, I guess, how they are as a person is almost just as important as how they are on the field. Because if you got someone that's a really good player but you can't coach, it's a bit of a dick. Doesn't get on players. He's probably not going to have a long. Doesn't add much value to the group. Whereas someone that's being a team man puts others before themselves. Especially you have scenarios where you're not playing each week and you got to prepare the someone that you're competing with to get better and perform well on the weekend. If you got the wrong attitude for that, you're not going to help the team, and if you don't have in the team, you might not necessarily win. So I think the way that they, the coaches do a great job, and or whoever selects them, that they are, selecting a group that's going to connect really well. I guess the nature of rugby is that we're massive on connection, getting to know each other and getting the best out of each other because of that, because it is a team sport. So I'd like to think that everyone that they pick is, for a reason. And, I think New Zealand, just in general, are pretty lucky. We're all majority are good buggers, and I think that goes a long way to, I guess, having a long career in rugby.
Okay, so I'm going to ask something in a little bit, but let's cut to the chase, because I think a lot of people want to hear about the All Blacks from you. Because I suppose that is now the ultimate of your profession. Not only were you a professional in the Hurricanes, that could have been it for you, like as a lot for a lot of people. Yeah. And that would have been great. I'm sure you would have probably still said that was largely successful. What, can you explain to people your emotions around making the All Blacks, how you reflect on that, and how you take that privilege? Because it's pretty special.
Yeah. So obviously had a pretty good year in 2023. Obviously, I was a bolter as such. TJ stepped his Achilles at the end of 2022, so there was an opportunity for a starting spot at the Hurricanes. So I knew for myself it potentially could be a big year. Just, I guess it was up to me whether I was going to take that opportunity or not, because there's still other, quality nines who we're sort of competing against, for that number one spot. And I guess, I was lucky enough to have a pretty good year. Obviously, we got knocked out early in the quarterfinals, so had a week off prior to the team naming. And what they do is they don't tell you if you're going to be named. So for your first naming, you find out what everyone else does on TV. So
what?
That's pretty crazy. Sort of plays with your emotions a bit. And you don't even know, you sort of get a rough idea if they're looking at you, because they'll come in during the season and there'll be the medical team will come in just to make sure you're all good, or have a catch up, sort of say, you're playing pretty well. Yeah, literally, yes. See what your body comp's like and all that sort of stuff, and you're pretty in the dark. And I remember having a conversation with Dane Coles, asking what I was going to do for the team naming, because we were done for the season at the Hurricane. I was like, we're just going to stay here in Arlington. Hadn't really given it much thought. It was like, if I was you, I'd go, watch with your mum and dad, because, the first time you get named to the All Blacks is one you remember forever. So I was like, I guess if anyone would know, it'd be him, because he's obviously been around for a few years. So I was like, okay, yeah, sweet. So I shot home with my partner as well, and didn't realise at the time, but mum and dad had organised a little watch party for it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so there's...
You hate it.
I told them that I was coming, but they'd already organised it, which was all good. But I just remember so there's probably about 15 people, that family that I moved to counties with, so they were there as well. It's just been obviously close family friends that have pretty much been supporting me from day one. So I remember the pressure I felt, because how embarrassing if I don't get named. It's just going to be so awkward. And they were, no, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. I was so nervous. And then obviously my last name's Roigard, so it's alphabetical order, so it's sort of down the list a little bit. I was feeling my hands. I looked down, my hands honestly shaking uncontrollably. It was the relief I felt when I did hear my name, crazy. Something that I'll never feel again, I reckon. And yeah, just seeing my old man cry. Mum in tears, I was in tears. It was I was mainly in tears because of the relief, because now I can just have a breath, because I was so worked up about it. But it was such a cool moment, just for everything that they've done for me, to achieve something that I don't think anyone would have thought was possible. It was pretty cool. And Colsey was right, something that I won't forget ever. Sure.
No, and I had to listen to hours of this on the bus with your father. I mean, it's incredible for you to be able to share that with them, I bet, because the pride they had in you was pretty immense, as you'd expect. It must be funny. It must be funny because that won't be the same again unless maybe you get older and one day there's a touch and go moment, whether you're too old. Really, you've cemented, and not many people can say they cement an All Black spot, but you'd be surprised, other than being injured at the moment, for the next wee while, unless there's a huge form change. So that moment of not knowing must be pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess so. And I think what I was most, proud of is that, like my other opportunities for the Hurricanes was through someone else getting injured. So I was injury cover, sort of had to work my way up. But this one was, I got named because I was good enough, which obviously being a kid not making rep teams, I was told I wasn't good enough. So that was probably something that I guess made me feel pretty proud. And especially when I did go into the group, I felt like I already had the respect of, all the players and obviously the coaches and management, because I'd earned it through the way I was performing. So yeah, that was something that sat with me. Well, still does, to be fair. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like now with the team namings, you never take it for granted, but I guess the messages that you get from friends and family or supporters are getting less and less, because it is sort of a given. Or, because everyone else sort of expects you to be named. It's sort of the messages when you do make the 23 or whatever. Now it's pretty much just mum and dad, because everyone else sort of just expects me to be playing, which I guess it's a good thing. But you never take it for granted, because obviously a lot of hard work sort of got me to this spot, and you don't want to just take it for granted, because then you might do the same thing on the field. So trying to make sure that I always appreciate the position I'm in and whatnot. So yeah.
When was your first conversation with an All Black coach? Was there a phone call after that announcement?
Yeah, there was. Yep. Probably an hour and a half after the team naming. I think they were driving home. I think the team naming might have been Te Awamutu, so it wasn't actually far away from where I was. But yeah, it was a very short chat. I'm guessing they were doing the rounds with everyone, so it was mainly around congratulations and see you in a couple of days or whatever it was. So yeah, but it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've asked everyone, and I'm not sure whether you'll tell me to shove it or not, Cam, but we ask everyone, no matter what their job, what the financial rewards, because we are talking about a career. You're actually paid because of your physical ability to play a game.
Yeah.
What's the base salary for something like a Hurricanes type contract? And how does that change with All Blacks? And I know recently you were flown to Australia to do some tool lad. So you have other mechanisms, I think you're allowed to earn money. So, not that you want to show off or say I earn whatever, but can you give us an insight into that side of it?
Yeah, so obviously you have your NPC contract, which is for pretty much 3 months of the year. And then if you make Super Rugby, pretty much you can combine them so they get distributed over 12 months. So you're not going 6 months, 3 months, and then you got 3 months with nothing. So that's sort of why you have your agent there to organise all that sort of stuff with the contracts and whatnot. And the base for a draft contract, which is like an apprentice contract for the Hurricanes or for Super Rugby in New Zealand, is I think it's 50,000. So it's not much, but they pay for all your rent, utilities, all that sort of stuff. So because you've obviously come down from counties or wherever, but then obviously as you get into full contract, you have to pay for your own rent and whatnot. But the contracts go up quite a bit more. So your Super Rugby contract, I think the max now is 195 for 6 months. So that's why 6 months is pretty much your Super Rugby contract, and then you got the majority of people will have their contract, which is the NPC and Super, distributed over 12 months. Well, everyone does that, plays Super. So, and then pretty much in NZR contract, it's if you make the All Blacks, you get X amount on top of it, which is an assembly fee, which I'm not sure if I'm allowed to disclose it or not, but it's pretty much the same for everyone. So whether you're in on injury cover or you've been there 10 years, that's all the same. But then there's other, I guess, performance incentives or top-ups that I guess the big dogs or people that have been there for years get put into their contract. So, so there's a few layers to it, and obviously around, because we are a performance-based, I guess, environment or whatever. So there's a lot of performance incentives, which.
So I'd be right in suggesting your mate who just got in from St. Peter's. Sorry, I forgot his name.
Simon, yep.
So you're going to be on more than Simon because you've been there, and performance-wise, there's been a calculation made. Would I be right in thinking that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know for sure, but especially around like the performance incentives, if you play X amount of games or you start 50% of games, then you get an extra 30k or 20k or whatever, which all gets paid out in December, I think. So, and something a bit random as well. We get paid monthly as well, so it's a bit different to everyone else. So, especially early doors, it's pretty tough. Well, not tough, but just a little bit different, something a bit different to get used to.
Yeah, you have to budget yourself so that
budgeting more important.
Yeah.
And how did you manage it? Did you get a financial advisor? I mean, I don't want to tell people what I know, but you've invested well, because you're one injury away from now I'm back building, like reality. So what did you do to protect yourself financially?
Yeah, so the NZRPA, which is the New Zealand Rugby Players Association, they're pretty massive on, I guess, making sure that you're not, I guess, ruining the opportunity that you've got. So they're pretty good in educating around if it is money, so they can organise, like you say, a financial advisor if you need one, or getting people in. They dedicate, I think it might be 3 or 4 hours. Put them on the spot. We'll say 5 hours a week for personal development. So we have our own personal development manager as such, which is dedicated to each New Zealand team. So
cool.
Whatever you want to, I guess, learn about or focus on, you can sort of dedicate your time dedicated in our schedule each week to focus on that. So I remember like early doors, for the first year team, they do stuff around budgeting. So you understand that, like you say, you get paid monthly, you got all these other expenses. How you gonna, I guess, make do and hopefully save some money as well. So you're not just burning through it thinking that you're, worth $1 million when, the reality is you're not. And like you say, one injury away from back on the building site. So, the NZRPA do a massive job in educating us and what we need to. If players want to look at different pathways for something as like a plan B or life after rugby, they can explore that in those times as well. So it's not all just on our back trying to find ways to prepare for life after rugby. I guess they have a lot of tools there and a lot of I guess connections for that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, they do a great job in that space.
So do you also manage your own health in a sense, or are you completely reliant on coaches? Because I'm thinking there's a saying, it's young man's disease, which is when people train and a little bit's good, so more's better, and then they get broken, which is maybe like an overuse injury, like your stress fracture in your foot.
Yep.
Did you go back a week ago or two, whenever it happened, and think, bugger, I was doing plyometrics, or were you forced to do things, but you're also trying to preserve your body? How much say do you get compared to a coach when you're in a professional environment?
Yeah, good question. I guess it's different depending on the environment. So Super Rugby, obviously, we're at home. So we're in Wellington. We're got all season. So I guess you're always going to have niggles and different things going on. And I guess the most important thing for them is that I'm available come Saturday. So it's very easy to have conversations with, say, physios or coaches around, hey, my body's a bit bugging here, or I've got this niggle that we need to manage so we can manage load. So you're not turning a small issue into a big one, which is exactly where you want it to play. You don't want to be run to the ground. over something that's preventable, all because they were saying, no, you need a buddy, you know, you need to train. If you want to play, you got to train, or like, you know, whatever the case may be. But obviously the All Blacks is probably a little bit different, being a high performance environment. You've got a very limited time together, so I think they'd like to think that all the stuff that we do during the Super Rugby season is sort of building up that that bulletproofing as such, so we're physically ready to play, you know, big test matches, because they are obviously a lot different. They're a lot more physical, physically demanding, and you have less time together, so you don't have a 4-week preseason or 8-week preseason like you do with Super Rugby. You've got a weekend, and then you're into your test week. So and you've got to learn all this stuff. But I guess again, that's probably why. Well, that's I guess the thing with professional sport and being in an elite environment like the All Blacks. So they obviously have the highest of the high in terms of you know, the right physios, doctors to do everything that we need to get us out there. But yeah, I don't think they would do anything reckless. I think those days are gone of just running your body into the ground for the team. And if you are prepared to do that, they'll have a conversation. You know, like if I was going to play a World Cup final tomorrow, we'd probably be having a conversation around, am I going to play? There's going to be repercussions if I had my, you know, with my foot or whatever. But if I was prepared to, and they were prepared to let me play, that would be a conversation that you have. Yeah. A bit like Richard McCaw in 2011 when he played with a broken foot.
Iconic.
You know, but you know, they would have had a conversation, I'm sure, and be like, well, it's going to be sore might put you out for a couple of months after, but if it means that you want to World Cup for a country, all good, you know. So yeah.
Just for kids sitting there, Cam, when we talk professional, I've been lucky enough to visit the Chiefs before and see some of the people working in behind data and analysis and stuff. Is there a quick way of you just sort of sharing quickly? I mean, you would be shared stuff either after a game or through training or through the data those All Black people are collecting. You'd know everything from speed, strength, your pass accuracy, how many rucks you hit, how many people you tackled. The data would be mind-blowing, would it not? Or
yeah, it's on a different level. So you get measured so we'll talk about the All Blacks because obviously that's the highest of in terms of the specs of what they measure and stuff. So for a game they measure, so we have a GPS and a heart rate monitor thing in our back of our jersey. So that measures the load that we go through. So our total distance, high speed running, sprint exposures, accelerations, decelerations, and then your heart rate. So how long you are in a zone 2, which is 60-70% of your max heart rate, 80, 90 to 100. So it just measures, I guess, how you feel to what the data presents, I guess. So if you feel like, you know, because obviously it's hard to measure collisions, for example. So if you're a tight forward and you don't have the heart rate monitor, and you think, oh, geez, he hasn't got through much work, like his total distance is down, or his actual amount D's down. But you see, looking at the stats, he's made 20 tackles, and his heart rate's at 80-90% for 40 minutes of the game because he's been exerting himself in these collisions. Then it sort of it makes it make a bit more sense, I guess. So yeah, we're pretty lucky to get, I guess, stats don't lie, and you're able to see each week what you what you're getting through in terms of workload, and on the flip of that, the analysis stuff as well, which I know you didn't ask about, but it's quite interesting. So we can see every single game that where they play Argentina. We can see every single game that they've played in the past 5 years, which is all coded, so we can watch. If you're a front row, you can watch every single scrum from this year if you want. Or there's particular players that are coded, so you can see what they're like. So I can watch the 9, for example, and see how he box kicks. So then I can connect with my locks, saying he's a right footer. He twitches his foot before he kicks or something, so then you can put kick pressure on and go when he twitches his foot. So there's so many layers of analysts that they do behind the scenes to give us, I guess, every possible chance of performing on the weekend and doing what we need to do. So it's
That's
yeah,
cool.
there's so many tools set up for us to succeed each weekend, which yeah, I guess it's up to you, the individual, to how much you look at it. Like there's some players that are obsessed with it. Certain positions have to, if you're a line out leader, you have to look at how they defend the line out, or if you're a 10, looking at the backfield and kick battles and how they kick. So you sort of, the idea, I guess, behind it is that you're not getting surprised by something thrown at you in the weekend, because you've previewed almost every case scenario. So when they do something, it's like, oh, yep, this is what they did, if that makes sense. So you're not in the dark guessing on the field. Yeah.
So in these next few test matches you'll be missing, Cam,
yeah,
I imagine, because I sort of know from your dad saying you'll be sitting in front of a TV and you'll be thinking to yourself, watching the halfback, whoever that might be, going,
yeah,
go one more time, go what now, go left, go. You're constantly seeing a pattern emerge where something needs to happen because you've been looking at data, or is that an instinct thing?
Yeah, no, well, definitely. I think it's a bit of both. Like, you don't want to be, I guess, a robot in the way that you've seen them do this, so I have to do this, or I think they're going to do this because they do this, because I guess there are a lot of variables in rugby and some great athletes who can play heads-up footy. And I think on the flip of that, why I think I've been able to be, I guess, successful is because I've got that balance right of, I'm not just passing the ball, not just doing my core roll every time. If I see space, I'm confident enough to be able to pull trigger, and I back myself to get through a hole, or I'm very deliberate in what I do. If I'm going to run, I'm going to run. I'm not going to half-ass it, for example, or whatever. So, yeah, I think it's just, like I say, it's just preparing yourself for success, and so you're not shocked by something that they do. But yeah, like, 'cause obviously I'm not playing the Argentina test, so I'll be watching the South Africa and Argentina tests. Obviously, we've got some big ones. South Africa playing Eden Park. I think we've got that 50-game win streak on the line, so that'll be massive. And if I'm available for that, yeah, just like any other week, but I'll be doing everything I can to make sure I'm as prepared as possible to, I guess, perform and do a job for the team. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I'm just going to ask one more thing, and Grace will ask a whole lot of other stuff before we finish off. I just heard Stephen Donald say the Roigard thing shocked us all, because Roigard wasn't just a piece of the puzzle. He was beginning to look like the hand that moved the pieces. And I suppose now, having chatted to you, and I'm taking you right back to that 14, 15-year-old not making teams, I think how bloody cool is it that you stuck with it, you didn't give up, and I'm wondering how many kids have in any sport, and maybe needed to wait to grow, or waited, as you clearly identified. Sometimes it's just a coach's perception, like there's a lot of talented people out there. There may be a halfback, for all I know, better than you, maybe not, but it's just that reality. And so yeah, I just want to put a shout out particularly to young kids sitting there who don't make teams, who just need to trust that instinct and follow the advice you've given, because I think it's been wicked. I mean, I didn't actually know part of it. It would have been that much more special. So well done. Wicked stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think it just, like, you never get a finished product when you're in school, like you're capable of so much more than what you probably think at the time. You don't see any 15-year-old Olympic athletes unless you're skateboarding or something. But like, it's a very rare case that you finished product at 15, 16, 17 years old, and it takes a lot of time to, I guess, develop, not just physically but mentally as well, because there's a lot of sports that are so, like, I guess, demanding of this. You're putting so many, like, pressure moments to execute a skill that you think that you can do 100 times at training, but when the pressure's on, you don't quite nail it. But that's just because you haven't, I guess, developed or been in those situations. And yeah, I guess if you do stay with it, stick in it, I guess you never know. Like, who knows? But, a lot of my opportunities were unfortunately, through someone else getting injured. But I also made sure that when those opportunities did come about, I was ready, because I sort of worked pretty hard to make sure that I was going to take my opportunity when it did come. Yeah.
And that's high performance sport too, isn't it? Taking those ones. Cam, thank you. And I know we have been chatting. We just had so many questions. I just have two. The first one, like, you are Cam Roigard, All Black. There's photos and videos and everything everywhere, but you're so much more than that. Like, you're more than just the athlete. You're a son, you're a friend, you're all these other things. With so much attention on you, and you handle it with so much grace, but how do you tap back into like that whole identity? Like, what do you do that, and you don't need to share everything because maybe it's your secret sauce, but how do you make sure you say Cam, not just Cam the All Black?
Yeah. Well, I think balance is pretty crucial for player or people like myself. We talk about it a lot, especially in the All Black environment, because it is such a demanding sport and job, that we are always in the spotlight, like you say, and that can be quite consuming and draining mentally, especially if you let it get the better of you, because, as we know, it's New Zealand public and whatnot can be pretty ruthless if you're not playing well, or if you do make a mistake on the field or whatever. They can sort of, they can be pretty ruthless. And we talk about balance because I guess it's a good way to make sure that when you do come into the group or you are in training, it's an enabler again to get the best out of you. So whether it's, when we're in the All Blacks camp, obviously when you're training, it's very full on. Meetings are, intense, all that sort of stuff. But we have a day off on Tuesday, which is an opportunity to switch off completely, not talk about rugby. There's a lot of us that play golf, so we'll get out and play golf, which is great because we're obviously all pretty competitive. We have a lot of similar traits, and like I say, it's a good way to get outside, not talk about rugby at all, have a bit of banter, have a laugh, which sort of refreshes you for the back end of the week. And then, the opportunity when you do have time off. So for the All Blacks, for example, we'll get from December to mid-Jan or just before Feb this year. So if you're in the Northern Tour at the end, it's an opportunity because you don't get much of it during season, obviously. So we don't get weekends or anything, obviously, like that. So making sure that you do have time away. So I'll be getting out of Wellington. I'll be seeing my family, because I haven't seen them apart from at games, not in a while. So it's been a few months for sure. So make sure you're connecting with people that you don't get to see. My friends, family. Probably still play golf. Probably Speedway is probably a good way to connect as well. My brother still races, so all that sort of stuff. I guess switching off is, being able to switch on and off is, it's a skill set in a way, because like you say, when people are determined, like I probably was too on, especially with the academy stuff, because all I wanted to do was be a rugby player and blah, blah, blah. So being able to have hobbies and have stuff outside of what you're doing, if it is work or if it's study, I think it's crucial for success, but make sure that you get the balance right, because, if I was trying to be a professional golfer, I wouldn't be a very good rugby player. So, if you're too caught up in the other stuff, the fun stuff, then you're not going to get the best out of yourself on the field or with whatever you're doing. So that's something that I'm pretty big on. Yeah.
Thank you. The last question, and this isn't for everyone. You've given lots of people lots of advice, but we like to ask everyone at the end, if you could go back to you in year 12 or 13, Cam to Cam, what advice would you be giving yourself?
Geez. I don't know. I reckon it would be similar to what Dad was sort of telling me, just around like giving it a genuine crack. And if it's not to be, it's not to be. But if you can, give it a genuine crack, if it doesn't work out, then you can hold your head high saying that you did commit to it. And then I think it's easier to move on. Because if you have that doubt that you could have, or that doubt because you don't know if you were going to be good enough because you gave up straight away, then I reckon that would kill me inside. So, yeah, that's probably pretty much. I was pretty lucky, I think, with the support that I did have, that I was able to commit to it, and mum and dad and friends and family were able to be there to be an enabler for me to commit to it. But yeah, I think staying in it, don't let one or two people's opinion defer from what I want to achieve.
That's huge. Thank you so much. I know Ludlam will say something, but just Cam, thank you. Between us, between the impact you're going to have with this podcast and that you've already had, it's incredible. We really, really appreciate it.
Right, no worries.
Yeah, no, look, thanks, Cam. I'll tell your dad you did a great job. When you're speaking to them, make sure you send our regards and a shout out to Karapiro Charters and Tours, because they got spoiled for 15 years. So
that's cool.
Yeah. Look, Neil, best wishes with your recovery, Cam, and I think Grace will finish this up soon. But yeah, all the best, and bring a World Cup home too, eh?
That's right. Well, yeah, hopefully 2027. Can't wait.